For decades, people on Earth had looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone was out there. They built giant telescopes, sent messages into space, and dreamed of meeting other intelligent beings. Then one day the message came. It was not a whisper or a signal lost in static. It was clear, strong, and addressed directly to Earth. The Galaxy Council, an alliance of over 200 alien civilizations, invited humanity to join them as an observer member. The news spread like wildfire. People celebrated in the streets. Scientists cried. Politicians gave long speeches about a new era of peace and progress. After centuries of loneliness in the universe, humanity was finally being welcomed in. Ethan Cole stood on the observation deck of the orbital station Viridia, watching a fleet of alien ships glide past like silent birds. He wore a simple gray suit with Earth's blue and white emblem on the lapel. At 38, he was one of the youngest diplomats ever chosen to represent Earth on the galactic stage. He had been selected not for his political experience, he had little, but for his calm mind and sharp instincts. Beside him stood Maya Ruiz, a quiet astrophysicist from New Mexico. She was in her early 30s with dark eyes that missed nothing, and a habit of tapping her fingers when she was thinking hard. She had not wanted to come at first. She distrusted grand gestures and polished promises. But when the Council's invitation included access to their scientific archives, she changed her mind. Knowledge, she believed, was worth the risk. The station Viridia hung in the void between two star systems, a massive ring of silver and blue metal humming with energy. Inside, corridors curved gently, lights glowed soft white, and the air smelled faintly of ozone and something floral, maybe a scent the aliens found calming. The human delegation had been here for 3 days. So far, they had attended 2 formal meetings, toured a botanical garden filled with plants that pulsed with light, and eaten meals that tasted like nothing on Earth but were strangely satisfying. The council envoys were polite. They bowed slightly when greeting, spoke in smooth, measured tones, and never raised their voices. But there was something off about them. Their smiles never reached their eyes. Their questions about Earth's history felt rehearsed, as if they already knew the answers and were only checking. High Arbiter Vexlan was the one who greeted them on arrival. Tall, with smooth gray skin and eyes like polished obsidian, he moved with a grace that made humans seem clumsy by comparison. During the welcome ceremony, he praised humanity's courage, calling Earth a beacon of resilience in a chaotic corner of the galaxy. He spoke of shared futures, mutual respect, and the wisdom of unity. Ethan nodded along, smiling politely, but Maya watched Vexlan's hands. They never trembled, never fidgeted. It was as if he were wearing a mask, and beneath it something else waited. That night, back in their shared quarters, Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, her tablet glowing in the dim light. She had patched into the station's public energy grid, a harmless channel that monitored power flow for maintenance purposes. What she saw made her frown. The energy patterns didn't match any known council design. There were spikes in the gamma band, brief but intense, repeating every 17 minutes like a heartbeat. She ran a quick simulation. The pattern resembled a cloaking field, but not the kind used for ships. This was smaller, localized, and hidden inside the station's core systems. She showed Ethan the data. It could be nothing, he said, rubbing his temples. Maybe it's just how their tech works. We don't understand half of what's in this place. Maybe, Maya replied. But why hide it in the public grid? Why not use a secure channel if it's routine? Ethan sighed. You think they're watching us?
I think they're testing us, she said quietly.
Or preparing for something, he didn't argue. He knew better than to dismiss her hunches. Back on Earth, Maya had predicted the Mars reactor failure 2 weeks before it happened. Just by noticing a tiny anomaly in telemetry data, she saw patterns where others saw noise. The next morning, they were summoned to the Hall of Accord, a vast chamber with a domed ceiling that showed a real-time map of the galaxy. Stars blinked like distant campfires. Council representatives from dozens of species sat in tiered seats, their forms as varied as their worlds. Some insect-like, some crystalline, some wrapped in flowing robes that shimmered with color. Vexlan stood at the center, his voice echoing softly. Humanity has shown great promise, he said. Your species rose from primitive beginnings to reach the stars in less than 3 centuries. That is remarkable and concerning. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Ethan stiffened. Concerning? That wasn't in the script, Vexlan continued. The Council believes in order, stability, harmony. Your history is filled with conflict, rapid change, and unpredictable innovation. These traits are admirable in small doses, but in the wider galaxy they can be disruptive. Maya's fingers tapped against her thigh. Disruptive. That was a warning. Ethan stood. "We've come here in good faith," he said, keeping his voice even. "We want to learn, to cooperate, to be part of something greater. If our past worries you, let us prove our intentions through our actions." Vexlan inclined his head. "Actions speak louder than words, Ambassador Cole. We shall watch closely." The meeting ended shortly after. No decisions were made, no new privileges granted, just more waiting. Back in their quarters, Maya pulled up another data stream. This time she accessed the station's maintenance logs, publicly available but buried under layers of bureaucracy. She found something strange. Every time a human delegation moved through a corridor, cleaning drones activated in adjacent sections. Not unusual, except the drones carried no cleaning tools. Their internal sensors were tuned to biological emissions, heart rate, brainwave patterns, even micro-expressions. They were scanning humans, not cleaning floors. "They're studying us like lab rats," Maya whispered. Ethan stared out the window at the endless stars. "Then we play along," he said. "But we stay sharp. We watch everything. We trust nothing." That night, neither of them slept well. Outside, the station hummed its quiet song. Inside, a storm was gathering. The Galaxy Council had opened its doors to humanity. But the warmth of the welcome felt thin, like ice over deep water. And beneath that ice, something cold and calculating waited. Maya kept her tablet close, her eyes scanning lines of code. Ethan paced slowly, his mind racing. They had come seeking friendship. But what if the Council had never intended to give it? What if this invitation was not a beginning, but a trap? The stars outside offered no answers, only silence, and time running out. Weeks passed on the station Viridia and nothing changed. The human delegation remained in limbo, granted observer status but denied real access. They could sit in the outer galleries during council sessions, but they were never called to speak. They could request tours of public facilities, but every time they asked to see defense systems, energy cores, or communication hubs, the answer was the same. Not yet. Ethan kept his frustration hidden behind a calm face, but inside, he was growing restless. Maya, meanwhile, spent most of her time in their quarters, eyes fixed on her tablet, fingers flying across the screen as she dug deeper into the station's data streams. Back on Earth, things were getting worse. Reports trickled in from the outer colonies. Mars tightened the asteroid belt settlements. Ships carrying food, medicine, and spare parts were vanishing without a trace. No distress calls. No wreckage, just empty space where vessels should have been. At first, Earth Command blamed pirates or navigation errors. But the pattern was too clean, too precise. The missing ships all followed routes approved by the Galaxy Council's traffic control. And every time a ship disappeared, Council monitors nearby reported routine system checks or temporary signal interference. Ethan brought the issue up during a private meeting with Vexlan. The High Arbiter listened with his usual calm expression, then shook his head slowly. "Space is vast, Ambassador Cole. Accidents happen. The Council regrets these losses, but we cannot be held responsible for every vessel that strays off course." His tone was gentle, almost kind, but his words carried no warmth. Ethan left the meeting with a knot in his stomach. That evening, Maya received a coded message. It came through a backup channel she had set up before leaving Earth. A narrow-band laser link routed through an old research satellite near Jupiter. The sender was Leo Grant, an engineer she had worked with during the early days of the Mars terraforming project. Leo was stationed at a maintenance outpost on Phobos, fixing drones and monitoring deep space comms. He wasn't supposed to contact her directly, but the message was urgent. Maya decrypted it in silence. The words were short but chilling. "Found something. Human drone. Council signature. Buried in junk belt. Sending data." "Don't trust anyone," her heart pounded. She waited until the station's night cycle began, when most systems ran on minimal power and surveillance dipped slightly. Then she opened the file Leo had sent. It was raw data from a derelict scout drone, one of Earth's oldest models, launched over 50 years ago to map the Kuiper Belt. The drone had gone dark decades ago, presumed lost. But someone had found it, reactivated its core, and used it to transmit a burst of encrypted information before it shut down again. Maya worked through the night. She cross-referenced the drone's signal with council frequency logs, filtered out background noise, and slowly peeled back layers of encryption. What she uncovered made her blood run cold. The drone's memory banks contained fragments of internal council communications, voice logs, command orders, even surveillance footage. In one clip, a council officer spoke plainly. "Keep the humans guessing. Feed them just enough hope to stay quiet. Their expansion must not reach Sector 9. Another file showed schematics of human-made engines, designs that had mysteriously failed during testing years ago. Next to each schematic was a council annotation: stability compromised, safe for deployment. They had sabotaged Earth's technology from the shadows, making failures look like human error. But the worst discovery was a timeline. For over a century, the Council had been interfering with human progress. They'd redirected asteroid mining efforts away from rich zones. They'd jammed deep space telescopes during critical observation windows. They'd even planted false data in early AI training sets to slow down automation. All of it subtle, all of it deniable. Their goal wasn't to destroy humanity, just to keep it small, predictable, and harmless. Maya showed everything to Ethan the next morning. He read the files in silence, his face pale. "They've been lying to us from the start," he said finally. "This isn't diplomacy, it's control. We need proof the Council can't ignore," Maya said. "Something undeniable." She contacted Leo again, this time using a more secure channel. He responded within hours. He had managed to recover more data from the drone's backup core, enough to reconstruct a full Council directive. It was labeled Project Containment Sol. System. The document listed Earth as a high-risk variable and recommended continuous passive suppression to prevent unregulated evolution. Ethan knew what they had to do. They requested an emergency session before the full Council. They cited new evidence of external threats to human colonies and asked for immediate review of safety protocols. To their surprise, the request was approved within hours. Vexlan himself sent a message. "The Council values transparency. We welcome your concerns." But Maya didn't trust the speed of the reply. It felt too easy, like they were being led somewhere. The day of the session arrived. Ethan and Maya dressed in formal Earth attire, dark jackets, simple pins, no weapons. They walked through the gleaming halls of Viridia, past silent guards and watching eyes. The Hall of Accord was empty except for a few Council observers. No full assembly, no media. Just Vexlan standing alone at the center. "This is not what we asked for," Ethan said. Vexlan turned, his expression unreadable. "The full Council is in recess, but I am authorized to hear your concerns directly." Maya stepped forward. "We have proof that the Council has been interfering with human development for over 100 years. Sabotage, deception, false intelligence. We demand an explanation." For the first time, Vexlan's calm mask slipped. His eyes narrowed slightly. "You speak of things you do not understand." "We understand enough," Ethan said. "We know you fear us." A long silence followed. Then Vexlan sighed as if disappointed. "Fear is not the right word. Caution is. Your species thrives in chaos. You rebuild faster than you destroy. You adapt where others perish. To the Council, that is not a gift, it is a threat. Order requires predictability. Humanity is anything but predictable." "So you lied to us," Maya said. "You invited us here not to include us, but to watch us." Vexlan didn't deny it. "You were never meant to sit at the table. Only to be studied from a distance. But you pushed too hard, asked too many questions. Now you leave us no choice." Alarms blared suddenly. Red lights flashed along the walls. The doors to the chamber sealed shut with a hiss. Ethan spun around, but there was no way out. Their comms went dead. Outside the windows, Council security drones swarmed toward their quarters. "They're locking us down," Maya whispered. Ethan looked at her. "Can you send the data out?" "To Earth?" She shook her head. "All outgoing channels are blocked." "They've cut us off completely." But then she remembered something. Before leaving Earth, she had embedded a failsafe in her neural implant, a tiny device linked to every human network, from military satellites to civilian drones. It could send one message, one command across all systems at once. It was designed for emergencies, for moments when everything else failed. She met Ethan's eyes. He understood instantly. They had one chance, one word that could change everything. Outside, the drones drew closer. Inside, silence fell. Maya took a deep breath. She activated the implant. The word was ready, but not yet. Not until the right moment. For now, they were trapped, but they were not helpless. And the council had made one terrible mistake. They had underestimated what humans would do when cornered. The chamber was cold and silent after the alarm stopped. The red lights faded, replaced by a dull white glow that made everything feel sterile, like a hospital room. Ethan and Maya stood back to back, watching the sealed doors. They could hear the soft hum of drones outside, circling like sharks. Their comms were dead. Their ship, the Horizon, was docked 3 levels below, guarded by council sentries. Escape seemed impossible. Vexlan hadn't moved. He stood near the center of the room, hands folded, expression calm again. "You have spirit," he said. "That is why you were chosen to come here. Not because the council trusted you, but because we needed to see how far you would go." Maya kept her voice steady. "You brought us here to trap us." "We brought you here to contain the problem before it spread," Vexlan replied. "Your species has already begun reverse engineering council tech from debris fields. You've built faster than light probes without our permission. You speak of peace, but your actions whisper ambition. The galaxy is not ready for humanity's fire." Ethan stepped forward. "We never asked to burn anything. We only wanted a chance to stand among equals." "There are no equals in the galaxy," Vexlan said softly. "Only those who maintain order and those who threaten it. You are the latter." He raised a hand slightly. From the ceiling, a thin beam of light scanned the room, locking onto Maya's neural implant. She flinched as a sharp buzz filled her skull. The implant was being probed, its functions mapped. She clenched her jaw, fighting the urge to cry out. "They're trying to disable it," she whispered to Ethan. "Don't let them," he said under his breath. Maya closed her eyes for a second, focusing. The implant was Earth-made, shielded with old-school encryption. Simple but effective. It wasn't connected to the station's network. It ran on its own power, waiting for one command. As long as it stayed intact, they still had a chance. Vexlan lowered his hand. "Fascinating. You built a dead man switch into your own mind. Crude but clever. Tell me, what is the word you plan to send? Attack? War?" "Revenge." Maya said nothing. "It does not matter," Vexlan continued. "Even if you send it, your fleets are scattered. Your colonies are unprepared. The council controls every major jump point, every supply line. One word will not save you." Outside, a new sound echoed, boots on metal. Council enforcers in sleek black armor approached the chamber. They carried no visible weapons, but their presence alone was enough to make the air feel heavier. Ethan turned to Maya. "Remember what we talked about on the shuttle? Before we landed?" She nodded. "We don't fight with guns first. We fight with memory." He gave a small smile. "Then it's time." Maya took a slow breath. She focused on the implant, bypassing the external scan, activating the internal trigger. The system asked for confirmation. She gave it. The word was not attack, it was not run or resist, it was remember. Across the galaxy, in every human settlement, ship, and station, the word flashed on every screen, echoed in every headset, and pulsed through every networked device. On Earth, in government bunkers and university labs, dormant programs woke up. On Mars, automated factories shifted from building habitats to assembling defense drones. In the asteroid belt, mining rigs reconfigured their laser cutters into targeting systems. Even civilian cargo ships rerouted, forming protective clusters around vulnerable colonies. The order did not command violence. It commanded awareness. It unlocked Project Mnemosyne, a hidden protocol buried in all human systems during the early days of space travel. Designed by a group of scientists who feared outside control, it preserved Earth's true technological capabilities, hiding them behind layers of false failures and staged setbacks. Now those capabilities were returning. Back in the chamber, Vexlan's calm finally cracked. His comm unit beeped urgently. He listened for a moment, then his eyes widened slightly. "Impossible," he muttered. "What's happening?" One of the enforcers asked. "Earth's networks. They're all active. All at once. And they're coordinating." Maya allowed herself a small breath of relief. It had worked. Ethan spoke clearly. "You thought we were weak because we played by your rules. But we were never playing. We were waiting." Vexlan turned to them, his voice low. "You have made a grave mistake. No, Ethan said. You did. You assumed we were alone, but humanity doesn't need permission to protect itself. Suddenly the station shook. A deep rumble ran through the walls. Alarms blared again, this time real ones. Red emergency lights flashed. A voice over the intercom announced in panicked tones, "Unidentified human vessels approaching Viridia." No response to hails. Defense grid compromised, Maya smiled faintly. That'll be Leo. On Phobos, Leo Grant had spent the last 48 hours reactivating every old drone, satellite, and salvage bot he could find. When the word remember came through, he launched them all, not as weapons but as signal relays. They formed a mesh network around the inner system, bypassing council jamming. Then he sent a single message to every human ship within range. Viridia is hostile. Extract Cole and Ruiz. Now 3 fast response cutters, small, fast, and built for stealth, were tearing through the station's outer defenses. They weren't firing weapons. They were hacking. Using old Earth codes, they overloaded Viridia's docking clamps, severed power to security grids, and opened emergency airlocks near the human delegation's quarters. Inside the chamber, the enforcers hesitated. Their orders were clear, but the station was falling apart around them. Vexlan looked at Ethan and Maya, his face unreadable once more. This changes nothing. The council will respond with full force. Maybe, Ethan said, but now we're not defenseless, and we're not alone. Just then, the wall behind them exploded inward, not with fire, but with pressurized gas and torn metal. A rescue pod, no bigger than a car, hovered in the breach. Inside, Leo waved frantically, his face streaked with grease and sweat. Get in, he shouted over the roar of escaping air. Ethan grabbed Maya's arm, and they ran. The enforcers raised their hands, but it was too late. The pod's thrusters flared, and they were yanked into the void. As they sped away from Viridia, Maya looked back at the station. Lights flickered across its surface. Human ships darted between council cruisers, not fighting, just moving. Fast, smart, unpredictable. Exactly what the council had feared. Leo handed her a headset. Earth Command says the word worked. Every system is online. We're not hiding anymore, Maya nodded. She felt tired, but also clear. The trap had been sprung, but not the way the council expected. They had tried to silence humanity with deception. Instead, they had awakened it. In the distance, stars burned cold and bright, and for the first time in a long time, they felt like home. The rescue pod shot through the void like a stone skipped across dark water. Inside, the air smelled of burnt wiring and sweat. Leo gripped the controls with white knuckles, eyes locked on the rear display. Viridia shrank behind them, its silver ring now flickering with emergency lights. Council patrol ships peeled away from the station, engines flaring as they gave chase, but they were slow to react, caught off guard by the sudden chaos. Ethan held onto a handrail, breathing hard. Maya sat beside him, her fingers flying across a handheld console Leo had tossed her. She was patching into the pod's comm array, trying to reach Earth Command. Static crackled, then a voice broke through, calm, firm, familiar. This is Commander Derek Shaw, Lunar Defense. Maya, Ethan, you alive? Maya exhaled, barely. But we're out. Good. Because things just got real. Across the solar system, humanity was moving. Not in panic, but in rhythm. The word remember had done more than wake up old systems. It had reconnected a hidden web of readiness that spanned from the moon to the edge of the Oort cloud. On Luna, beneath the silent plains of Mare Tranquillitatis, blast doors slid open in a buried hangar. Dozens of ships, sleek, black, and never logged in any official registry, rose into the sky. They were the Silent Fleet, built in secret over decades, powered by engines the Council thought Earth couldn't master. Derek Shaw stood on the command deck of the lead vessel, the Ares Vanguard. He was in his late 40s with a shaved head and a voice that didn't need to raise to be obeyed. He'd been waiting for this moment since he was a cadet. Now he gave the order. All units execute Protocol Dawn. In orbit around Mars, automated shipyards that had pretended to build cargo haulers for years now unfolded like metal flowers, revealing weaponized frames beneath. Drone swarms launched in silent clouds, not to attack but to jam, confuse, and blind. They flooded Council sensors with false signals, making one ship look like 10, a freighter look like a warship. It was misdirection, not brute force, classic human trickery. Back in the pod, Maya watched the data stream. Human colonies were locking down, but not in fear. They were fortifying. On Titan, methane refineries rerouted power to shield generators. In the asteroid belt, miners turned their rock cutters into point defense turrets. Even civilian transports formed defensive rings around medical outposts and schools. No one had given them orders. They just knew what to do. The word remember hadn't just activated machines, it had awakened a shared instinct. Leo steered the pod toward a rendezvous point near Jupiter's moon Europa. "We've got a carrier waiting," he said. "Fast, quiet, and loaded with everything we salvaged from Phobos." Ethan finally spoke. "What about the Council? Won't they retaliate?" "They already are," Maya said, pointing to a new alert on her screen. 3 Council dreadnoughts just jumped into the outer system. "But they're hesitating. Why?" Leo asked. "Because they don't understand what's happening," Ethan said. "They expected riots, panic, maybe a few desperate attacks. Not this coordination. We're not fighting like a cornered animal. We're fighting like a network." And that was the truth. The Council had studied human history. They knew about wars, revolutions, empires rising and falling. But they had missed the quiet thread that ran through it all. Humans worked together when it mattered most. Not because they were told to, but because they chose to. As the pod docked with the carrier, a converted ore hauler named the Wayfarer, Maya sent one more message. This time it wasn't a command. It was a broadcast open to every species in the galaxy. She kept it short. "We did not ask for this fight, but we will not be caged again. If you value truth over control, stand with us. If not, stay out of our way." The message went out on every frequency in every major language, even the ones Earth had only recently learned. It wasn't a threat. It was a line in the sand. On the bridge of the Wayfarer, Captain Nina Patel, a former freighter pilot with a sharp tongue and sharper instincts, greeted them with a nod. "Glad you made it. We've got eyes on the Council fleet. They're regrouping near Saturn. Looks like they're calling for backup." "Let them," Maya said. "Every minute they waste talking, we're getting stronger." She was right. While the Council debated, humanity acted. Engineers on Ceres repurposed mining lasers into long-range comms boosters. Scientists in orbital labs uploaded counter-algorithms to neutralize Council hacking attempts. Even school children on Earth helped, monitoring public feeds for suspicious activity, reporting anything odd to neighborhood defense nets. It wasn't war as the galaxy knew it. It was something quieter, deeper. A whole civilization waking up at once. Hours passed. The Wayfarer drifted in the shadow of Europa's ice cliffs, cloaked by a field of frozen debris. Inside, Ethan, Maya, and Leo pored over star charts, planning their next move. They couldn't win a head-on battle. But they didn't need to. Their goal wasn't destruction, it was exposure. "We need to show the galaxy what the Council really is," Maya said. "Not just to us, but to everyone they've controlled." Leo grinned. "Then let's give them a show." He pulled up a file, the full project containment logs they'd recovered from the drone. Every lie, every sabotage, every secret order. "If we leak this to the neutral systems, the ones on the edge of Council space, they'll start asking questions. And once they ask," Ethan added, "the Council's house of cards falls." Nina agreed. She routed the data through a chain of smuggler relays, pirate satellites, and free trade outposts. Places the Council ignored, but where information spread like wildfire. Within hours, the truth was out. Species that had lived under Council rule for generations began to whisper. Some demanded answers. Others powered up old defense grids of their own. Back on Viridia, Vexlan watched the reports pour in. His calm was gone. His hands trembled slightly as he read the latest update. Multiple neutral systems declaring temporary independence. Trade routes collapsing. Public unrest on 17 member worlds, one of his aides approached. "Shall we deploy the peacekeeping armada?" Vexlan stared out at the stars. "Peacekeeping won't work now. They don't believe in our peace anymore." For the first time, doubt entered his voice. The Council had ruled through fear wrapped in order. But humanity had torn the wrapping away, revealing the fear underneath. And fear, once seen, loses its power. On the Wayfarer, Maya looked at the star map glowing on the wall. Red markers showed Council positions. Blue ones showed human assets. But between them, new dots were appearing. Green, yellow, purple. Other species watching. Waiting. She turned to Ethan. "This isn't just our fight anymore." He nodded. "No, it never was." Outside, the silent ships of humanity held their positions, not advancing, not retreating. Just waiting, ready, remembering, and the galaxy held its breath. The silence lasted 3 days. Not the quiet of emptiness, but the heavy stillness before a storm breaks. Across the solar system, human ships held position. Council fleets hovered near the edge of Saturn's rings, engines idling. Weapons powered but not fired. No shots were exchanged. No messages sent. Both sides watched, waited, and weighed their next move. But the real battle wasn't in space, it was in the minds of 1,000 worlds. News of the Council's deception had spread faster than anyone expected. The leaked files, project containment, the sabotage logs, the recordings of Vexlan's cold admissions, were now circulating through neutral trade lanes, rebel data hubs, and even some Council member worlds. Species that had obeyed the Council for centuries began to question. On the ocean world of Kalis, citizens gathered in floating cities demanding transparency. In the desert colonies of Virex, local governors shut down Council relay stations. Even loyal members whispered in private. If the Council lied about Earth, who else had they controlled? Ethan, Maya, and Leo stayed aboard the Wayfarer, now hidden in the asteroid belt. They weren't hiding out of fear, they were listening. Every hour, new signals came in, not just from humans, but from others. A freighter captain from the Zenth Collective sent coordinates to a hidden Council weapons depot. A scientist from the Lumari Syndicate shared encryption keys to bypass Council firewalls. Small acts, but together they formed a tide. Then the first crack appeared. The Tarni Concord, a mid-tier Council member known for shipbuilding, publicly announced it was suspending its military contributions until the Council answered for its actions. Within hours, 2 more followed. The unity the Council had built over millennia was starting to splinter. Vexlan called an emergency session, not in the Grand Hall of Accord, but in a closed chamber with only the inner circle present. His voice, once smooth and certain, now carried strain. "We must restore order," he insisted. "Deploy the Armada. Crush the human resistance before it inspires further rebellion." But not everyone agreed. Ambassador Corin of the Silvani, a tall, willowy being with silver eyes, spoke softly but firmly. "Crushing them will not erase the truth. It will only prove it. The galaxy is watching. If we act in anger, we lose all moral ground." Others murmured in agreement. For the first time, the Council was divided. Back on Earth, people didn't celebrate. They prepared. Factories ran day and night, not just making weapons, but tools. Shields, medkits, communication relays. Schools taught children how to recognize propaganda. Neighborhoods formed mutual aid networks. It wasn't fear that drove them, it was clarity. They finally understood they had never been alone in their struggle. Others had been silenced too. Derek Shaw's silent fleet moved like ghosts through the outer system. They didn't attack. Instead, they protected. When a Council patrol tried to cut off supplies to Titan, human drones swarmed the area, not to fight but to block sensors and create confusion. The patrol withdrew, unsure of what they were facing. Humanity wasn't playing by the old rules. They were writing new ones. Then came the message no one expected. It came from Viridia, unencrypted, broadcast on all channels. It was Vexlan. He stood alone in the Hall of Accord, the galaxy map dim behind him. "People of Earth," he began, his voice quieter than before, "and people of all worlds who hear this. The Council has made errors. We acted from fear, not wisdom. We believed control was the same as care. We were wrong." A pause. Even the stars seemed to listen. "We do not ask for forgiveness, but we ask for a chance to speak. Not as rulers, but as equals. Meet us at Viridia. Not with weapons, but with words. Let us rebuild what was broken." Silence followed. On the Wayfarer, Maya looked at Ethan. "Is it a trick?" "Maybe," he said. "But if we don't go, we become what they feared. Unpredictable, angry, closed off." Leo shook his head. "They could be setting a trap. Or they could be changing," Maya said. "And if there's even a chance, we have to take it." Earth Command agreed. Not out of trust, but strategy. They would go, but not alone. Ships from neutral systems joined the human fleet as it moved toward Viridia, not to fight, but to witness. The Zenth freighters, the Lumari science vessels, even a Tarni diplomatic cruiser, all came to watch. When the human delegation arrived, they found the station different. The guards were gone. The doors stood open. Vexlan waited in the Hall of Accord, not on a raised platform, but on the same floor as everyone else. Ethan stepped forward. "Why now?" Because you reminded us of something we forgot, Vexlan said. That order without truth is tyranny, and that even the smallest voice, if it speaks honestly, can shake the stars. The talks lasted weeks. Not easy, not perfect, but real. Humanity demanded full access to technology, fair trade, and a permanent seat on the council, not as an observer, but as a voting member. They also insisted on a new rule. No species could be monitored, limited, or manipulated without its knowledge and consent. To everyone's surprise, the council agreed. On the final day, Vexlan stood before the newly reformed assembly. Representatives from over 200 species watched, some hopeful, some wary. He turned to Ethan and Maya. You gave us one word, he said. Remember. And in that word you gave us back our conscience. Maya stepped forward. We didn't give it to you. We just helped you find it. After the ceremony, as the human delegation prepared to leave, Leo looked out at the stars and smiled. So at what now? Ethan put a hand on his shoulder. Now we build, not just ships or stations, trust. Maya nodded. And we never forget what it cost to earn it. Back on Earth, children looked up at the night sky not with wonder alone, but with pride. They knew their place in the galaxy wasn't given. It was claimed. Not with fire, but with memory, with truth. With one word that changed everything, and far away on 1,000 worlds others began to whisper that word too. Not in fear, but in hope,